Hello, friends. Mercury retrograde is officially over. We still have that shadow zone to go through, but that's all good because we are turning the page into September. And I hope you are ready for September. I hope you are ready to embrace change. I hope you are ready to look at all of the abundance that is already around you because we are in for quite a ride. So listen into this episode if you are ready to hear about all of the shakeups going on in the cosmos with the astrology of September, and more importantly, how you can prepare yourself and harness this energy for your work and leadership. Hey, everybody, if you are a subscriber, thank you so much for joining me again. And if you're new here, welcome to Star Powered. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your host, a multiracial, multifaceted, professional musician turned web designer turned astrologer. Astrology helped me overcome an identity crisis by revealing my star-powered strengths. Now, I use these strengths to guide healers, entrepreneurs, and changemakers like you in making your mark through astrology. Okay, friends, before I dive into the September Starcast, I wanted to spend a little bit of time reflecting. I'm going to be dropping this a few days before we go into September, and we just had our Mercury retrograde come to a close. We are in the last moments of light with this waning moon, and it's a perfect time to reflect because we can see things more deeply. We have this kind of inner knowing because we've gone through so many shifts and changes. Now, this Mercury retrograde, if you've been listening to me for a little bit about this Mercury retrograde, as it went through Virgo and then back into Leo, now it's going to cross back again through Leo and into Virgo. That's Mercury, that is. This was really about giving us permission and creating routines to come back to things that once brought us joy. Now, I'm not sure what you did in your life, but I know personally for me, I took up yoga again. I started practicing yoga at home in the mornings and the evenings. I went to a few classes and I really started prioritizing my personal self-care in terms of like moving my body and exercising. I put together a habit list of all of the things that I really wanted to do in my life that really makes me happy. Now, instead of like going super micromanaging and saying, okay, I need to, eat this many cups of vegetables a day and, go to yoga 3 times a week and do strength training twice a week, it really boiled down to, did I move my body today? Did I do an act of devotion today working with spirit? Did I practice or create, whether it's music or writing? Did I spend time with loved ones? Those are kinds of the big things that I wanted to track, that I know that when I do these things make me so much happier and more fulfilled. And so as we reflect back on this Mercury retrograde to rekindle the joy and that passion and creativity in your life, what did you rekindle? What new processes, what routines, what habits did you come back to? Now, this was so important. I love thinking about all the astrology transits as kind of these lays or stepping stones. And when I say lay, I think of the Hawaiian lei. I'm from Hawaii, so I always think about stringing these flowers together. One flower comes first, then the next, then the next, then the next, then the next, just like a stepping stone. And so we got to have this beautiful Mercury retrograde to rekindle our joy, to bring back routines, specifically because when we come into September, things are about to get fast. The next trimester of the year, September, November, just going to skip October. September, October, November, December are some of the most fastest months that we have ever seen. And, always going to talk back to 2020 because there are things that initiated in 2020 that are finally starting to come to this culmination in this last part of 2024. And so before I show you all of the details of all of the things going on in September, I want you to really tune into the theme that I've given to September, which is evoking your inner wisdom. And what I mean by evoking your inner wisdom is that this is all going to come to you in terms of making the choices that are right for you at this time. Forget about, people pleasing other people, forget about like holding on to traditions, forget about, doing things out of obligation, because this is going to be a truly a spiritual practice that of connecting to your inner wisdom in terms of like what needs to be changed, what can you let go and like just forget about, like the little broken pieces. Is it your responsibility to put it back together? Where in your life are you feeling a sense of lack? And for almost all of us, we're feeling some sense of lack in our life, whether our money is tight right now, or our personal relationships are tight, or we're not getting the recognition that we truly desire. And so, wherever you're feeling lack in your life, your inner wisdom, what your inner wisdom is going to say? Well, what is not in lack in your life? What feels abundant? What feels valuable to you? Are you making moves towards the things that you want more of in your life? Are you giving more of those things that you want more in your life? Because it's going to be a month like this that if you are not totally tuned into your inner wisdom, if you're not practicing all of your spiritual tools and or conscious tools or mindful tools, this is going to be that type of month that it's going to feel really hard, because you're going to be resisting change or only focusing on the things that you don't have instead of all the things that you do have. You're going to be focusing on maybe why things are no longer working, and they're not supposed to work because our world is changing. So as you listen to all of the shifts and changes that I'll be sharing with you of like the hyper planetary ingresses, meaning planets moving into different signs, all of the transits, our eclipse season, our equinox, oh my goodness, the list is long. The thing that I want you to take away from this is that this is going to be your chance to bring things to a close, to let go of things that are no longer working for you, and to accept change. To accept change so that you can disrupt old patterns that are no longer working, so that you can unsubscribe and opt out of things that you just no longer believe in, and to trust in the power of the universe to give you what you need when you need it. This will require a lot of inner wisdom, compassion, and feeling. The worst thing that you're going to do this month is turn off your feelings and avoid them. So use your inner wisdom to open up to your emotions, to give them space to move through you, to feel them, to learn what you need to learn so that you can change with the times that are changing. All right. Now, one thing that I need to tell you, this episode, September forecast of 2024, is sponsored by my membership and mastermind called Star Powered Circle. If you've been feeling that you wanted community, you want astrological guidance, you want to tap into your own star powered leadership through astrology trainings and new moon ceremony and community support and star hours and all the things, my community is open for the next open doors right now to join in for the next 4 months. And so I call these trimesters. So the doors to trimester 3 of 2024 are open. The things that I really want you to understand about Star Powered Circle, if you've heard about Star Powered Circle before, I want to give you the highlights of what's happening in trimester 3, because there's so much going on in the sky. In September, we're going to be having a Face Your Fears Eclipse challenge. So if you've been feeling stuck in your visibility or stuck in showing up or stuck in just making change in your business or your life or your leadership, that Face Your Fears challenge is going to be great for you. Then in November, we're going to be doing that Mercury and Mars retrograde masterclass. Even though Mars retrograde doesn't officially happen until the beginning of December, we're going to be talking about it in November so that you can reinvent yourself by reigniting your passions and purpose with reshifting that Mercury and Mars processes in your life. And then, of course, we are going to be having a 4-week training that we do together. And the training that we'll be focusing on, which is perfect for like my Virgo mind right now about creating wholeness in our business, is about how to consistently bring in new leads and clients into our work, into our leadership through creating a beautiful opt-in, sometimes called a freebie, sometimes called a lead magnet. And so this is an Astro brand training where we're going to spend 4 weeks together, putting together your lead magnet, putting together a nurture sequence that guides your customer along a journey so that they know that you are the one for them. Of course, we're going to be using astrology and weaving it in with some pragmatic strategies. Now, remember, every month we have a new moon ceremony. We have a star hours, which is like mini readings and coaching all in one. We have full moon accountability groups. We have some other accountability groups that once you're in, I'll let you know all about it. And then, of course, we have our Astrobrand training library. But the best thing about Star Powered Circle is the people. I kid you not. We have people from all over the world doing all kinds of jobs, but we all come together because of our love for astrology and tuning into our astrology so that we can show up as our star-powered leaders. So, my friends, if you are interested in joining Circle, head on over to starpowered.com/circle. Our opening ceremony is on September 3rd, along with the Virgo new moon ceremony. It's going to be beautiful. We initiate and we put our dreams and our hopes and our intentions and plant them together, all while talking about astrology, doing mini readings, and spending time with the people and the community that we love. So if this is calling you, please head on over to starpowered.com/circle. Doors close on August 31st. Okay, my friends, I just want to give you the highlights of September, all the things that are going on. So again, we have a bunch of planetary ingresses. Ingress is just a fancy word for a planet moving into a new sign. And we have 5 planets changing signs. Well, actually 4 planets, 1 planet changing twice. We have Pluto re-entering Capricorn for the last time. We have Mars moving into Cancer for approximately what seems like forever. I'll get into the details of that. We have Mercury heading back into Virgo and then zipping through Virgo, going into Libra later on at the month. And then we also have the Sun moving into Libra and Venus into Scorpio. So just on the planetary ingresses and just the planets changing the way that they process, is more than enough. But on top of that, we also have Uranus retrograde starting. We have our eclipse season, and we have, as the sun moves into Libra, the starting of our fall season here in the Northern Hemisphere, or the spring season for us folks in the Southern Hemisphere, the equinox, a very, very important passage throughout humanity, and especially a very important passage for us who practice Western tropical astrology. So let me go through all the dates. You can write them down, or I send these out in my newsletter if you already get my newsletter, or if you don't get my newsletter but want to get my newsletter, I send a newsletter with your StarCast once a month, and you can get that StarCast at starpower.com/StarCast. Okay, September. All the cosmic shifts. First of all, September 1st starts with a bang because we have Pluto and Uranus, 2 generational planets. Pluto is currently in retrograde and it's backtracking into Capricorn. And this is so significant. I'll talk about that in depth a little bit later. Then we have Uranus retrograde beginning at that Taurus of 27 degrees, both of this on the first day of September, Woohoo, Sunday. On the 2nd, on Labor Day, if you are in the United States like me, we have a new moon in Virgo at 11 degrees on September 2nd. And then on September 4th, Mars enters Cancer. I'm going to talk a lot about that as well. Then Mercury re-enters Virgo. Remember, Mercury was in Virgo a couple of last month before it went retrograde into Leo. That's on September 8th. Mercury is moving super, super fast. So Mercury leaves that shadow zone of our last Mercury retrograde. Well, we officially over with that cycle on September 11th. Then we have our first eclipse of our eclipse season. Every year we have 2 eclipse seasons, and every year we normally have 2 eclipses per season. Sometimes there are 3, like in 2020, but we're not going to talk about that right now. This first eclipse is a full moon partial lunar eclipse in Pisces. Now, this is it's igniting the track for when the eclipses start to move over into Pisces and Virgo. Now, eclipses, if you remember, they are moving into these new signs because of how close they are to the lunar nodes. Now, the lunar nodes are still in Aries and Libra, and they'll be shifting into Pisces and Virgo soon enough. But this first full moon eclipse, which is only partial because it's kind of far away, but still within those, I think it's like 19 degrees. You have to be away from the nodes for it to be considered an eclipse. And so this one, you're not really going to see it. It's going to be a little bit more subtler feeling than some of the full moons that we've had, like the red full moons that we've had in the recent past. So this is going to be in Pisces, and it's going to foreshadow a little bit of what to expect when we start to have these Pisces Virgo eclipses that are coming up in the coming year. Then, of course, that September 17th, then the sun enters Libra. Equinox, equal day, equal night on September 22nd. You can already feel it's still San Francisco. I live in San Francisco, and our summers are very, very late in the season. But even though it's really hot, you can feel the smell of that kind of fall season in the air. It's like one of my favorite times around equinox. Then Venus enters Scorpio, also on the day of the equinox. So Sun enters Libra, Venus enters Scorpio on September 22nd. And then Mercury, who's only spent a couple of weeks just speeding through Virgo, lands in Libra on September 26th. Now, these are just like kind of the bigger shifts that are happening that are really, really important. Again, I'm going to talk about that Pluto entering Capricorn, Mars entering Cancer. But I also want to highlight that right around the 24th and the 25th, we're going to be having an Earth grand trine made by Mercury, Pluto, and Uranus, and all of those late degree Earth signs. At the same time, Mercury is going to be kind of like creating, what do you call it? It's almost like a slingshot, because Mercury will also be at an opposition to Pluto. And so there's going to be all of this emphasis on Mercury in Virgo between the 24th and the 25th. And to me, this is going to be an excellent time to really get things done, because Mercury in Virgo is let's get those details, let's get things organized, let's get things planned, and it's going to have the inspiration of Neptune, so it doesn't get so bogged down. You can see like the bigger picture, and it's going to have the intensity and the impact, but not in like a destructive way, in a very constructive way with Pluto. And then Uranus is going to say, hey, but you know what? We're going to try things out differently. We're not going to play by the same rules. We're not going to have the same old rigid plans that we can never stick to anyway. And so I really want you to like keep your eye on that last week of September and spend some time developing and mapping out projects in very new ways, because the sky is going to be on your side. Okay. Let's dive in a little bit deeper. First thing I want to talk about is Pluto re-entering Capricorn. And so Pluto, over the last few years, Pluto has been doing this little dance between 29 degrees of Capricorn and 0 degrees of Aquarius, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This already started a couple of years ago. Okay. And so this is going to be the final time that Pluto enters Capricorn, because Pluto is going to be ending his retrograde on October 11th. And by the time we get to November, November 19th to be exact, we will say goodbye to Pluto in Capricorn in our lifetimes. Pluto will not return back to Capricorn for another 240 years or so. And so, why this is so significant for me and you is that this is the last pass. Remember that Pluto's process is to break down, it is a death and a rebirth process. And we are grateful that Pluto moves so slowly, because if Pluto was to like go through and move things and do his job really quickly, it would be super painful. It'd be too impactful, like just like too much, like, whoa, too much change at one time. And so, as you think about the last 4 years, the last 2 years, as Pluto was going back and forth over this 1 degree, this one part of the sky, 29 degrees of Capricorn, Aquarius of 0 degrees. If you have anything in that area of your chart, whether this is between those final degrees of Capricorn and Aquarius, or those final degrees of Cancer into Leo, or those final degrees between Libra to Scorpio, or lastly, those final degrees from Aries to Taurus. So the final degree of cardinal sign into a first degree of that fixed sign. If you have any planets in those areas, you have been feeling this, and it's felt like a complete transformation. And for the rest of us, you can think about, as Pluto has moved through Capricorn over the last 20 something years. Pluto first moved into Capricorn into 2008. So if you can remember all the way back to 2008, what has completely transformed for you? That's going to give you a great key into these last final pushes of what you need to break free from oppressive systems that might have, held you down, made you invisible, made you feel not worthy. This is that final pass for that old guard to be gone for good. Okay, my friends. So get ready for that. As Pluto comes back in November to Aquarius, of course, I'll be having another conversation about that. The next thing that I really want to talk about is Mars in Cancer, because Mars in Cancer, we're like, ooh, does Mars like being in emo Cancer? And I'm calling this emotions in motion. And so Mars enters emotional Cancer on September 4th, and then it stays there through November 3rd. And at that time, then it's going to leave and it's going to go into Leo. But then we have a Mars retrograde that's coming in December. And so it's not going to get too far into Leo before it turns around again and dives back into Cancer on January 6th. 2025, all the way to April 18th, 2025. Now, I want to, put a little bit of information into this. If you remember the date January 6th, and that rings a bell, you're probably in the United States, and you probably remember that was when we had the insurrection on the United States Capitol. Well, that insurrection happened on a day when Mars finally left Aries, because it had spent 6 months in Aries because of its retrograde in Aries back in 2021, and then left on that 29 degree from Aries into Taurus. And so there is something about reminiscent that could possibly be happening about with Mars entering Cancer. Now, Cancer and Aries, they're a little bit different, but they're both cardinal energy. They're both energy that gets things started. And so as Mars goes into Cancer, it's absolutely a time to initiate and activate, and this time with your emotions. Now, Mars, we can think of Mars as, the warrior or weapons and things like that. But, a sword, a hammer, a pencil, these are all tools, and tools can be used for good or they can be used for destruction. And so the same thing with your emotions. You can be beholden to your emotions and they can become a weapon for you because you can't get past your emotions, or you get stuck in emotion, or you keep on like triggering the same thing about yourself. Or this time, maybe you can learn how to move through these emotions. Maybe you can learn how to understand your emotional intelligence and what an emotion truly is asking of you. Your emotion, whether it's hard, whether you're judging it as good or bad, that emotion is just giving you information. Okay. If you're judging an emotion as bad, then it's your job to ask it, well, what is not being met? What are your needs? And if you have a great emotion, then this is also your job to say, like, well, what is this that is making me so happy, so that I can give it gratitude, to celebrate it, and to call in more of it. And so for all of us, while Mars is going through Cancer, I want you to understand about our emotions are here to teach us so that we can prioritize and manage our fears especially during eclipse season. So we get this Mars in Cancer to support us learning to understand and initiate and prioritize our emotions so that we can move through them. We're never going to get rid of our fears. We're never going to get rid of our emotions, right? I want you to learn how to embrace them and to learn from them so you can work with them and move through them, especially when we get towards eclipse season. And ultimately, as you work through the shame that stems from these fears that hold us back from our leadership, from our visibility, that maybe give you a little bit of anxiety. So when Mars enters Cancer, this is going to be a wonderful time for us. We have from September through November, and then again from January through April. So this averages out to about 6 months of Mars in Cancer. Now, of course, if you need additional emotional support during the season, and I mean, like, who doesn't need it, right? Like, I could use this support also. This would be an amazing time to invest in yourself this way, to invest in counselors or therapists or group communities to be witnessed so that you can be brave, so you can share your support with your team, so other people can support you. Getting emotional support through counseling or psychotherapy is such a courageous, brave thing to do. And as we are healing, as we are learning to move through our emotions, do know that if this is a time that we all are going through this. So be patient for yourself, give yourself some self compassion, but remember, somebody else is going through this as well. And so if you're looking for a safe space, a safe community to get over this hump, I have a community that might be just perfect for you. It is absolutely a safe space where we're all working through our fears so that we can become better leaders and make our mark. Last thing. Okay, so a couple of other things as we get closer to our new moon. I'm going to be dropping a whole episode on this Virgo new moon so that you can really dive into your Virgo and your cohesiveness. And as we get to eclipse season, I'll be posting some special episodes on your Face Your Fear challenge so that we can intentionally work with eclipse energy. What else? And of course, when we get towards the sun in Libra and equinox, I'll be talking more about equinox. So the things that I didn't cover, absolutely, I'm going to be covering some more. If you want more, please share with me in the comments what you want more of. And if you just truly enjoy this YouTube channel, hit subscribe, add a comment. Your comments are like gold. The more that you comment, especially in YouTube, the more that the algorithms think that this is awesome content to share with others. So please share the love if you enjoy this podcast, and have a most beautiful September. I'll be back in a couple of days to talk about that Virgo new moon. All right, my friends, bye for now. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we